How to make a sheet metal design in SelfCAD. Hello everyone. This is a video that was requested from one of my listeners and showed me a AutoCAD design video for sheet metal, asked me to make the same in SelfCAD. So here it is. I think you'll learn quite a lot. The main thing we're going to explain here is some technical drawing, trimming, and then the actual bending of the sheet metal, and then the fillet that's going to be used, and some techniques that I'm sure could be helpful in many other projects. So to get started, what we're going to do a rectangle for this design. Start with a rectangle, and we always, as we draw, we have to solve basically precision, how we're going to draw with precision. But here also I like to start my drawings around the center. So what I'm going to solve here both in one way, with one setting, is I'm going to go to the precision settings, and I'm going to add the option over here, grid vertices. Now, this design that I'm following asked a rectangle for 100 by 100. I know the size of each box over here, each quad, is 50, because based on the workspace settings, the way it's set, you can obviously change that. So if I'm choosing to snap to grid vertices, I can snap to grid vertex 1, 2, and then move it down over here. So I know I have basically enclosed 4 boxes, which is 100 by 100, and it's also in the center. For now, that's all it is for this entire tutorial. I'm no longer going to use grid vertices. I'm unchecking it. I'm soon going to use the angle step size, you'll see. For now, what I want to do here is I'm going to add a circle, and this, again, I'm following the same design it was. So actually we have a grid vertex over here, but I've unchecked it, and it's still going to snap over here. And for now, this is actually called an active profile. It's selected. If you see over here, the remaining settings that we have: active profile, all profiles, and also objects. Now I'm going to uncheck this actually. So now this is considered all profiles category. It's no longer an active profile, and the grid vertex is not selected. This option, grid vertices, is off. But it will still snap over here, because if all profiles is activated, it will snap to vertices from the profile, but also to center points in the center of over here. So I get a center point, I give one click on it, and I start moving to the direction, and then I type in 10. So that's basically just following the design. So we create a circle over here of 10. Now the purpose we use this is just for positioning purpose. So we know it's in the center over here. And I said I could have used grid vertices, other thing, but I'm just following this, and I think it's a very good way of positioning stuff, to learn to position the center of something. But this design actually does not require the circle to stay here. That's why I made it a separate profile, because if it would have been one profile, then I needed to select that and use the split function to split them off. But now what we're going to do over here, because already a different profile, I can simply move it. And I'm going to move it by, I use the move by function. I want to move it upwards to the back, which is a negative in the Z direction, negative by 30. So now we have this by 30 move. Now what's going to happen over here is we're going to add an offset. And there's different names how it goes to offset, but in SelfCAD actually it's called add thickness, which is a tool that reuses for mesh and for this different things. A similar concept, but over here, this is how you make offsets to a profile. So what we're going to over here, we want the offset to be in the outside, so we're going to make a -3. Which is basically added this outside circle, and this is going to be used for the basic profile as you see later, and I finalize it. Now once I use that tool, I finalize it, actually it automatically exited out my drawing, so I'm going to go back to the drawing, open again my drawing, and now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to finalize this profile, throw it in. So first of all, I'm going to activate the solid plus wireframe, which the name stems from a mesh, but it also doubles down for profile, so this means you can see the circle details. Now this is a little bit different. If you think about AutoCAD or some other CAD software, you may not see the details of the circle. It may be made out of just arcs or minimum points, but over here you actually do have it, and when you draw the circle, you have an option to choose how detailed it should be, the circle. But nevertheless, what I need to do now is need to draw a straight line, and here's we're going to use the minimum angle step size. So I want to draw a simple straight line from this point of the circle over here. And I know my line needs to be 30 because I know offset it by 30, which is the center, and this is the center point of the circle. But I need to make sure I'm drawing it straight. And if you see, if I have my step size 15, whatever works for you, 15 I find this is default, it works very good. You can see it, in order for I need to make a kind of an extensive angle, which is easy to keep it straight, then I just need to type in 30. So I type in 30, and this actually is already done. Now it wants to continue drawing, so I'm going to press escape to exit it out, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Start drawing, moving it down, just keep it straight, and type in 30. And now I'm actually going to close this. So I'm simply going to snap it to this point. It snapped it to this active profile point, and that's it. And we're actually done now with this drawing. But what we need to do here is we need to mirror it to the other side. So we're going to go to the mirror in utilities. And I know actually how much I need to do. I need to make a copy. Choose the option to need to make a copy. And by default, it mirrors it like this if I choose the front. So it mirrors it. This is drawn on the back, and I mirror it on the front. You can actually see this virtual plane, this dark one over here that gets created. It shows you the plane that it's mirroring around. But I need to make an offset. I want it to mirror over here. So I can do it two ways. I know I need to mirror it by 50 because we measure from the center. This is positioned in the center of the scene. But I'm going to use the snap option just to show you. Sometimes you don't know. So I'm simply going to snap and click here on this point. And you see it automatically fills it in for me 50. It actually typed it in. It knows. And you can see now what happened is that this plane got positioned over here in the center. It offsets it and then it mirrors it. So this is done. Okay. So now what we have over here, we have 3 profiles. Both of these extensions plus this. I'm going to select all of them. Simply click Ctrl+M to merge it. Or you can go from Edit menu, click Merge, whatever. And now we're going to start cleaning up. So over here, if you look at AutoCAD others, you have like a trim function. And SelfCAD, you don't need that. It automatically cuts everything into, so I can easily remove. So this I'm following. I actually don't need to do in SelfCAD. I'm just following the same flow that was given to me to show the same idea. So I'm selecting these 2 parts over here. And over here, they actually left this line. I'm going to select just the inner part, just following the same example in the video. And this is basically how we clean this up. Okay, so now we're going to need to add extensions here that's going to be bended upwards. So I'm going to go to Edit Details. Now you can do it with drawing, but I find Edit Details much easier. I can simply drag this out and then type in 30. So I give it a direction, start moving it, and then you just type in the value, how much you want to move it. So far we are basically same design. Here I'm going to do it a little bit different based on SelfCAD, the way it works, because we work with a solid. So I need to kind of organize, plan the way the mesh will be created or the surface will be created. So I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to type in 17 because I wanted to leave over here a little bit. I know that this is actually 20, so I leave it here at 3, not specifically, but just this value. And now I'm going to move the next one. This always snaps the center point. So if you see over here, I snap it to the center, I get a green line, so I don't need to type in anything. And the center point would be 8.5 because we have the 17 divided over here. And then I'm basically done with this. So I'm finalizing it. We got this basic structure. Now what we're going to do, we're going to use fill polygon to convert it into a surface. Now normally I would use extrusion to convert them into a mesh, but here we actually want to create a surface because this is sheet metal, and for sheet metal you want to bend it actually first the surface, and you'll see soon why. So I'm finalizing this. So it created everything, but then I need to delete these inner parts. And for this, what we're going to do, we're going to go to polygon mode. So polygon will select the entire thing, but in polygon selection, there is an option called part selection, which allows me to pick inner polygons within other polygons. So basically this allows me to do this, and I simply click delete. So we selected this and deleted them. Okay, so now here becomes a little bit interesting that you need to do a little bit different because we deal with meshes and SelfCAD always make sure it's 3D printable. So they must be kind of physics match, the faces must work, so we can do the next step. So we're going to go back to the Edit Details tool, and here we're going to go remove. So the goal here is to remove these extra faces, so we have a clean sheet that can easily bend it, and these extra triangles will actually block it. So I actually need to remove only this one, and over here these, but I'm going to remove everything because I like to have some nice quads. Why not? So I removed all of this and we finalize it. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to move this face mode so I can pick individual faces. I don't want to pick polygons, I want to pick faces. And I'm going to select this entire section. I'm going to bend it around this edge. So I'm going to go to the rotate mode, and I need to select to move it around this edge to rotate. So we do it in SelfCAD. The way you do it is you select the manual gizmo position, and I basically snap it to this edge, and then I'm going to move it down to rotate it by 90 degree, which is a 270 degree rotation over here. And then I'm going to repeat this based on what the design is asking. I need to change the gizmo position, snap over here, and here we're going to move it up by 270, and then over here this should be a manual position should be a 90 degree, I think. So let's see. Now we're going to move this up by 90 degree in the Z. Now there actually, you may think this is actually all 90 degree angles. That's true, but if you think about from the perspective of the angle from this gizmo, the rotation, if something is already rotated 180 degree based on the rotation plane, we need to add to 180 another 90, which is why we get 270. So yeah, this is a little bit complex the way this rotation works, but I guess the visuals is good. Another thing that's interesting to note is that it's easy to use these gizmos to rotate because we have the minimum step size to 5, the default, so it's easy to snap. If you ever need to make smaller values, you can either type them in exactly or just lower this value over here, so you'll get more freedom. But in cases like this is why we have this minimum step size. It makes it much easier to do things like that precisely. Okay, so we are done with the rotation, and now we need to do is finally, and this is the same flow. I know some software will have sheet metal specific tools, but the example video given to me in AutoCAD is actually doing the same thing I'm doing now. It uses fillet to do them. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to select an edge to fillet. I'm going to select first these two inner edges, and I'm going to go to the fillet tool, and oops, didn't click on it, in the fillet tool, and I'm going to fillet this, let's say by 4, okay, and I'm going to add over here 5, and over here, but you see this is giving me an inner roundness. I want to have it the opposite side. So for this, instead of making it 0.5, I'm going to make it minus 0.5. So it's minus 0.5, and now we get the nice rotation. Now this is the reason why I wanted to work first on surfaces instead of meshes. Once you have a mesh, the more complex it gets, you will have a lot more limitations. And if you have a mesh, you'll need to separately round the outside of the mesh, separately the inside of the mesh. But if I'm dealing with a simple surface, look how nicely this comes out, and over here I have no limitations, nothing, because we remove these extra lines, and this is actually very nicely done. Okay, so now I'm going to select this edge and do it over here, and over here I have less freedom with the amount, but 4 is perfectly fine because, and also need to make it positive. So this is why we gave this space over here. So it's actually based on the amount of space you have, how much this is limited. You know, I cannot go much more than 4. Usually it's like half the value, so I have 8.5. So yeah, so this is good. I think 4.5 would be, or 4.25, something like that would be the max. But nevertheless, this is now completed, and we get the nice design, the basic design. So here I'm going to do something else just to show you a concept. It's not really a part of the design, but just to show you, I'm going to select these polygons over here, all of these big things. It's much easier to select this than picking this, and I'm going to simply give it a color. It doesn't matter, I can make it silver kind of. And what I'm going to gain with that is that we now have 2 materials, and it will allow me later to select them easily before I add the thickness. So it's just trying to do everything that I can on the surface, because the more as you add the mesh, it gets more complicated. So why not save time over here? And now we're going to go to the add thickness, and here's the idea where we can add thickness. You see, negative will basically add it will be nicer for these parts, while kind of limiting over here how much you do before they start self-crumbling. Intersecting is still good, but the more you start doing it, it's less. If you go positive, let's say 3, it will be the opposite side. So this would be nice, and this would be, because the way they are bended, one is bended upwards, one on the way. So I think over here we can make it, let's say 2, to make it look nice, and we have this done basically. Okay, so now let me show you what the benefit of having different materials. So I'm going to go now to the material section, and now you can see you have material 0, material 1. So first of all, I can play with these things over here. Let's say I can undo the wireframe. You don't want to have the wireframe on it. And then I'm going to switch to the material. I'm going to use a physics-based material, and you can play with the settings over here, but for now, let's leave it. And then I go to material 1, which flashes for a second, as you saw, to know what it is, but then it removes the selection color because we need to see the changes. It just for a second flashes it. And then I'm going to change the color from here. Also, over here I can change the color here, and I can reduce the wireframe. Here I'm going to add actually a smooth shader as well, so it gives it kind of this nice look. And that's basically it. You can obviously make it look nicer, but yeah. I have also tried to render that, but it will take too much time over here, and let me show you what the render was. So here you go, this is actually the rendered image. I use SelfCAD's rendering. Now I'll just tell you that these render is basically, I chose the material directly in the renderer, simply chose a metal and sunlight, so actually very basic rendering, but you can see it looks quite nice. So yeah, the visuals here are different than in the rendering engine over here, the render image. But that's basically it. Okay, I hope this was helpful, and let me know if you want me to try anything else. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. And until next time, bye.